What is the role of the teacher in project-based learning? A lot of people think the teacher's role is to sit back at their desk and read the newspaper while students are crafting. That is not the case. The role of the teacher should be as a guide for the students as they explore the content. Well, what about the student? What is their role? Well, the student should be taking the lead in exploring the content and creating an artifact that demonstrates their understanding. Combined, you have this beautiful connection of project-based learning that can be seen from the student and from the teacher side. Well, what is the recipe project? Well, the recipe project is the first part of this spectrum of project-based learning. The recipe project is the type of project where the teacher assigns every aspect of the project for the student to create. It reads like a recipe, and the student's job is to recreate that recipe exactly as the teacher has instructed. If done correctly, the student will submit something that is identical to every other student's submission. Key concepts from the reading. What makes project-based learning engaging to students? According to Blumenthal et al.'s research, there are 4 things that stand out about making project-based learning engaging. The first is interest and value. Is the topic of interest to students? How can presentations of the topic connect to students' interests? And do students see the value of exploring, learning, and understanding the content? The next one is perceived and achieved competence. What do students actually know before a project starts versus what the teacher thinks they know? Do students know how to use the tools needed to be successful in project-based learning? The third one is task focus. Are students focused on learning or are they focused on grades? You can see this through the classroom environment. Is there an environment that supports students trying and failing? Do students feel comfortable sharing their opinion? Does the teacher's opinion always trump the student's opinion? And is the environment supportive of collaboration? The fourth one is teachers' content knowledge. Teachers need to understand the content if they are going to ask students to explore and make meaning. It is okay to not know everything about the content, and you should let students know this. But the students still need to feel that the teacher has a strong grasp on what they're teaching. Case study. A great example of the recipe project is one that I did very early in my teaching career. I wanted students to create a poster board that would connect photos that they took in nature with lines from Thoreau's A Walden Pond. The idea was for students to really connect the text with images, and by doing that, creating this beautiful poster board. Well, it didn't really work out how I had hoped, now that I look back on it. The project was straightforward, and the students all turned in very identical projects. However, some students really leaned in to the arts and craft portion of this assignment. Some of the pictures were outlined in glitter glue, some took leaves and branches and added it to the poster boards and really made it these beautiful pieces of art. Now, when I look back on the rubric really assessed students and their crafting abilities more than their understanding of Thoreau in relation to the content standards that we have in school. While this was a fun project for students, it really didn't measure understanding, which is the whole point of any type of assessment. To add to this terrible project, I would tell students, hey, the really, really good ones I'm going to put up on my wall, and the other ones, if you don't pick them up after school, they're going in the garbage can. I was literally calling their projects trash. As a student growing up, I struggled with these type of projects. And to be able to give them to my students and see what it was doing to those kids that would just take a black Sharpie, white poster board, take some pictures, and then write those texts underneath it. I was stressing them out, giving them anxiety like I used to get. The recipe project created all of these identical assignments from each student, but it really didn't tell me what they knew. It told me that they were able to be compliant, not that they were engaged in learning. The key concepts covered in this one really apply to this project in a lot of different ways, primarily because the interest and value part was there a little bit. By having students go and connect with nature and take pictures, it allowed some connection to what they were doing and what they could see in their backyard or in the local park. Now, the perceived and achieved competence aspect was interesting. I just assumed all kids knew how to take pictures and then put those pictures onto their computer and print them off. That was not the case. I found very early that I had to work with students to help them understand how to do this. Now, are the students focused on the learning or the grades? For a recipe project, truthfully, it tends to be far more about the grades than it does about learning. Because as the teacher, you've given them these check boxes to fill in as they accomplish each task. We want kids to explore and learn. But if they're worried about making sure every single thing is ticked off, they're focusing on the grades and not the learning. Wrap up. The recipe's role in project-based learning is where a teacher should start, if they want. Because you have to start somewhere, but it's not where you should end. The recipe is not really good project-based learning, but it's a starting point. It's a place where you can get comfortable with the format of project-based learning and hopefully move along to the point where you will start to give students more choice and more voice in what they are going to create to demonstrate understanding. I'm going to leave you with this key question. What can you do to help create an environment that is supportive of project-based learning for students in your classroom? In what ways is the role of the teacher in computer science instruction similar to the role of the teacher in project-based learning?